Hello everyone, welcome back to the course. So in our previous video, we learned about how we can deploy the components using SFDX where the metadata was in the form of SFDX project itself. Now here we are going to talk about the part 2 of SFDX deployment. Let's quickly talk about what use case is. Sometimes still there are few companies who are using source driven deployment. When we say that source driven deployment, that means they are not using SFDX, they are using src folder for the deployment. So what we need to do is, suppose that our developers are using SFDX as a development platform. The release team wants the data in this src folder where they have got the complete metadata with the package.xml file. I have seen many projects which I have been part of. They are using Salesforce DX as a development, but they are not using Salesforce DX format as a deployment. So here what we need to do is, again there are three steps. There is one extra step as compared to the previous thing. We have already talked about the various commands. There is one extra command that we will talk here. So this, the very first step is similar for both the cases. We must need to authenticate to the org, which org we wanted to perform the deployment or we wanted to promote the deployment. Then we have got the second, where we need to convert our force application, basically SFDX application, into the source driven folders, where we can have src as a parent folder, we can have SFDX src, we can have source folders, anything, whatever the folder you want. So how you can convert? There is a command for SFDX force source convert. This command is useful to convert your source folders from SFDX to the source driven folder, and then we need to perform the deployment. So these are the three simple steps. We'll talk about the two and the third. We have already talked about the number one. So here let's quickly talk about the SFDX for source convert command. So you can see under the source commands, the first command is force colon source colon convert. So as we discussed, this command is used to convert SFDX project into the source driven project. Here are some samples here. You can see SFDX as a namespace, then force is again a namespace, source convert, or hyphen or is basically you need to provide where your metadata resides, where your SFDX project metadata resides. And then you can see into the second example, you can see hyphen D is where you wanted to store the converted metadata. These are the two different things. And you have, if you have some package name, you can give the package names, like you have developed the package using SFDX and then you wanted to convert that, or you have a package.xml file, or you have some metadata files. There are various parameters that you can pass, and these are the explanation about those parameters. So the only parameter that we need to care about is hyphen R and hyphen D, and these will do the trick for us. So here is basically the command. You can see SFDX for source convert, again the path to our metadata folder, and then where we wanted to store. We wanted to store that in under an src folder. Before we execute this command, I will show you under the project I don't have any folder called src. Now as soon as I will run this command over here, it is going to create a folder called src with all the metadata that we needed. So you can see here there is a folder called src. If you double click here in the folder, you can see there are all the metadata like aura components, classes, lwc, objects, pages, static resource. If you have permission sets or you have profiles, you have some sort of lightning messaging services, any metadata that was there in your project will come here, and it will also create an automatic package.xml file. You don't need to worry about that. So that is about the step 2 to convert your SFDX project to the SRC folder. Now step 3 is to deploy. Now as we have converted our project from SFDX to SRC, there is a different thing, different API, different command to deploy these changes. So what that command is, the command name says MD API. This metadata API is used to used for like multiple purposes, but here we have got option for MD API colon deploy. Okay, this is the the second command that we can use to deploy our like components from one org to another org. So you can see here we have got this command, and these are the various parameters like log label, what is the target username, we have already discussed, what is the API version, check only either true or false, deployment directory from where we need to pick the metadata, what are the test label, if you wanted to have a wait time, specified test, then you have got some other parameters as well. If you have some zip file to deployment, you can use that as well. And either you want to perform a SOAP deployment or you want to perform a what will say that REST deployment. Okay, so here is a command. You can see I'll say that SOAP deployment as a false. We wanted to try using REST deployment, which is much faster than the SOAP deployment. So for the alias, we'll change it to dev1. We wanted to have a check only. We wanted to have a wait of 20 seconds. From where our metadata are coming from the src folder, soap deploy is false. Now let's try to execute this command, and we will see what actually is happening when we are executing this command. So if there is any error in the command, you can see that we have got some other error. It is saying that unexpected argument false. Basically this is a checkbox field. We just need to deploy perform that, not actually perform. This soap deployment is variable which we can only put, we cannot provide any value for that variable. So it is deploying with soap. If we go to here under, again if you go to the deployment status, because we are using the same org here for the deployment, you will see that there are total 43 components which are getting validated. There are no tests required because we haven't provided any test to run, and by default in sandbox it doesn't run any test cases. So you can see it has been succeeded. And now if you go to deployment status, again you will see there is one validation succeeded. You can just go to view details, and from there you can deploy it. So that's how you do the deployment using your like converting your SFDX project to the SRC source folder and then deploy from there. Why I have seen those like both the use cases, because whatever the use cases your company is using, you can immediately get into that track, and then you can start deploying the code from one org to another org. So that is it for about this video, and thank you for your time. I'll see you into the next video.